Welcome back. I hope you all had an opportunity for some coffee and some conversation and to enjoy Daria's artwork. NATO has played a key role in the Ukraine conflict, providing weaponry, intelligence, and moral support. Its members have also offered safe haven for refugees. But what more can it do, should it do, will it do? Let me invite our host, Fogh Rasmussen, back to the stage for a special conversation with Mircea Geoană, the Deputy Secretary General of NATO, who joins us live now from Brussels. Anders.
Here you are. What a pleasure to see you again, Deputy Secretary General. Dear Mircea, thanks for joining the Copenhagen Democracy Summit. I would start with a very broad question. By the end of this month, we are having the NATO summit in Madrid, and you're going to approve a new strategic concept. Could you describe to us what will be the main difference between the current strategic concept and the new strategic concept?
Thank you so much, dear Secretary General, dear Prime Minister. Best regards from Jens Stoltenberg. I'm privileged to be part of this great conference. We are only 19 days away from the summit of NATO in Madrid. We anticipate not only a historic summit, but a transformative summit. And the strategic concept, which is the second most important document after the Washington Treaty in everything we do, will be our guide, will be our direction for the next decade. So it's a very important document. The question is very legitimate. What's the difference in the new concept from the old concept, which was approved in 2010? In 2010, we were watching the world, and we stated in the current concept that the world is at peace. Today, for the first time in decades, in generations, we have war again in Europe. We also declared Russia as a strategic partner of NATO. Today, we see Russia in a barbaric war against innocent and independent Ukraine becoming one of the most important challenges to our security in Europe and also beyond. There was no mentioning of China in the old strategic concept. Now we'll have to make reference to China. China is not an adversary for NATO, but it's a massive transformative player in world affairs, and we have to look into account and take into account the implications of China's rise on our own security in the Euro-Atlantic area. There was not that much reference to resilience in the first concept. Now resilience is a massive topic, not only because of the war, but also because of COVID, and because of the beginning of some form of deglobalization and supply chain problems that we see. We also will have far more emphasis on new technologies, and we call emerging disruptive technologies. And our leaders will also adopt, for the first time ever, a defense innovation accelerator for the North Atlantic, Geoană, and we will be launching for the first time ever an innovation fund of NATO, which is again a game changer. So yes, this will be a massively transformed world, and a new concept will reflect an era of great power competition, where conflict is not only possible, but seems to be an instrument of choice. And of course, like always, NATO will look at the current situation, but also try to imagine the future and try to carve the way forward. A transformative summit indeed.
Indeed. So there will now be more focus on territorial defense of our Eastern allies. In that respect, I would like to ask you, do you foresee that NATO will permanently station NATO troops in Eastern allied countries, permanent bases in the Baltics, in Poland, maybe also in your home country, Romania. Do you foresee permanent basing of NATO troops in the East?
As we speak, this will be one of the most important decisions that our leaders will take in Madrid. We are now working on a fundamental transformation of NATO's posture, presence, and deterrence and defense on the eastern flank ever. You remember that, and we remember that in 1997, when NATO and Russia, we signed the NATO-Russia Founding Act, that Russia took the obligation, which is also UN Charter, OAC documents, took the obligation to basically not be a threat to its neighbors. Look at what's going on. Not to threaten with force countries in Europe. Look at what they're doing. So in a way, the reservation that we had in 1997 to put more significant forces on a more permanent nature in the eastern flank, in the new NATO allies, is now void because Russia basically walked away from the arrangement and the agreement with us. So yes, in Madrid, our leaders will take significant decisions to fundamentally change our posture. This will be not only more presence on the ground. By the way, I salute the decision that Chancellor Scholz took just 2 days ago when visiting Vilnius in Lithuania for Germany, who's the lead nation of that battle group, to beef up the presence up to a level of a brigade. But what's new is not only the quantity, which should be, of course, sustainable and flexible, but is the quality of what we'll be doing. So we'll be doing not only land, but also air, we'll also do sea, we'll do cyber, we'll do space. We'll be prepositioning equipments for us to be able to reinforce faster and with great efficiency and velocity. We'll be looking into a new architecture of air and missile defense systems, because that's an important thing. We'll be looking into, for the first time ever, that all these forces will be under the command of NATO, under the command of the Supreme Allied SACEUR, which is also new. So this will not be only in terms of volumes, but also be in terms of the quality. So multi-domain, very agile, and this is one of the most important decisions that our leaders will take in Madrid.
But do I understand you correctly that it's more about facilitating a quick response to a possible attack is rather that than a permanent basing? Permanent bases will be a bit different from deployment of facilities so that you can react in a much quicker way. So my question is, do you think leaders will agree to deviate from the 1997 Russia-NATO Founding Act and actually decide to station NATO troops permanently in the East?
I cannot prejudge what leaders will do, but I can anticipate that they will do exactly that. Russia has basically voided of its content the 1997 NATO-Russia Founding Act. It was not us. They invaded, occupied illegally Crimea in 2014. Then the 4 relatively small-sized battle groups in the Baltic countries and in Poland were established. So yes, I can say that we'll be ensuring to the eastern flank state-of-the-art, permanent, and we'll be moving from tripwire, which was the original idea of this light battle group presence in the Baltic region and in Poland. Now we'll have 8 battle groups, including in the southeast, in Bulgaria, in Romania, in Slovakia, and Hungary. And they will be beefed up to even higher level. So we are basically taking into account the fact that Russia is an aggressive and unpredictable player. So yes, we'll be going to a new generation of our presence in the East. And I can say, as a Romanian, that now we can witness the full integration of the new allies into NATO, also from a deterrence and defense perspective. So we'll be offering these countries the same quality of defense and deterrence like we offer to our Western allies in Europe. That's a massive transformation, and that's what our leaders, I'm convinced, will be doing in Madrid.
Thank you very much. Now, Finland and Sweden have applied for membership of NATO. Turkey has so far objected. So my question is, we know that Finland and Sweden will be invited to participate in the summit in Madrid. Do you think that the Madrid summit will be the event where the two countries will be invited to join NATO? In other words, do you think the Turkish concerns will be solved before the summit?
Finland and Sweden are the closest partners of NATO already. And the fact that after many, many years of neutrality, because of the aggressiveness of Russia, they decided to join NATO, this is wonderful news. They are superb democracies, they are impeccable militaries, and they have a level of interoperability with NATO already, which will make them great new additions to NATO. They will strengthen the Baltic Sea security, but I think they will be contributing much more to the overall transatlantic and Euro-Atlantic security. They are impeccable partners and very important future allies of ours. Of course, in NATO, as you all very know from your very successful tenure as our Secretary General, that allies have concerns. And Turkey has some concerns that are legitimate when it comes to terrorism. This is a country which is an important ally. No other country in NATO has suffered more terrorist attacks than Turkey has. They are hosting millions and millions of refugees from many areas of difficult situations. And we always take the concerns of allies very seriously. As we speak, there are discussions and consultations and negotiations between the interested parties. Secretary General Stoltenberg offered his good offices to all sides. We hope to have all three parties involved also here in NATO HQ, and we'll do our utmost to make sure that they will be reaching a mutually convenient solution. I will not rush into indicating timetables, but we are confident that Sweden and Finland will join our ranks. And I said before, they are superb new additions to our alliance, and we keep all confidence that they will be welcomed, and we're working 32 in the near future.
But of course, time is of the essence here, because both Finland and Sweden will be vulnerable and may be subject to attacks from Russia in the interim period. So the question is, which process do you foresee? How long will it take? And in the meantime, the security guarantees for Finland and Sweden will be provided, I think, by individual allies. Do you feel confident that such security guarantees will be provided, and are they sufficient?
First of all, of course, we'll do our best to shorten this interim period, because as you know, Article 5 will apply and does apply to any ally only after the ratification process in all national parliaments would have been completed. I salute the decision of the US Senate yesterday. I believe the specialized committees in the US Senate indicated an expeditious ratification process before the summer break in the US Senate. And I think there will be a quite compressed timetable in terms of ratification. Only after that, the instrument of notification will be presented to the State Department, the depository of the Washington Treaty, and only from that second, Article 5 does apply. In the interim, and of course we are all interested to shorten this period in between accession and admission into NATO. There are a number of things that we are working upon together. Number one, the Finnish army is formidable. The Swedish army is formidable. So in themselves, they are a deterrent factor. The second thing that we are already organizing lots of exercises together. There was an exercise in the Baltic with the participation of the two. We are making sure that we create the conditions of deterrence that will be credible. Then, of course, individual allies in between, they are on bilateral basis indicating this. Prime Minister Boris Johnson was visiting the two countries. The US is looking into this. Other allies are looking into this. Also, I have to say for this very well-informed audience that we also don't see signs from Russia of having the capabilities or the intention at this point to be aggressively, in military terms, against these two aspirant countries to join NATO. So I think we can treat this period with caution, in a proactive way, but we don't see real risks from a traditional military standpoint for Finland and Sweden. And we are working hard to make sure that this period is as compressed as possible.
Thank you. We are approaching the end of this conversation, but I have one last question about Turkey. As you rightly said, Turkey is an important ally, but obviously seen from the perspective of a democracy summit, we are somewhat concerned about the domestic political development in Turkey, as well as Turkey's purchase of Russian military equipment. So how do you see the future of the relationship with Turkey within NATO?
You know, just recently, Turkey and Greece celebrated 70 years since joined our alliance. They joined together in 1952. And the history of the alliance, as you well know, has not always been, you know, impeccable in terms of things amongst allies. Sometimes there are questions that the allies do not see eye to eye. It was the Suez Canal crisis. There were many things that happened. There was so that's a democracy in action, if you want. Also in Madrid, in the strategic concept, to reconfirm our values of freedom, of liberty, and the rule of law. This is something that unites all of us. And I'm absolutely confident that Turkey and other allies will continue to be very important contributors to our security. And I have to say that Turkey has played and is playing a massive role also in our support to Ukraine. They've been blocking the Black Sea from additional entrance of Russian warships. Already the blockade of the Black Sea ports of Ukraine is also very, very complicated. They try to be constructive and find a political solution. So I'm very confident that Turkey and all other allies will stay the course of our democratic alliance. And when there are issues, they need to be addressed, and they are addressed. And that's the beauty of NATO, that we always find a way forward. And Turkey continues to be and will always be a very important ally in our unique alliance of democracies from Europe and North America.
Yeah, thank you very much. It reminds me that Turkey was also opposed to my election as Secretary General of NATO. We found a solution, and I think you're right. We will find a solution.
And you did great.
Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary General. Thank you.